That's great. So you are on tour right now?
Yeah, we embarked on a 5 week tour, and we just did 1 week so far. So a 6 week tour, and so we have 5 weeks left to go.
Wow, a lot of gigs. So, well, first of all, congratulations for your new album. I think sounds great.
Thank you so much.
And I wanted to ask you about the production of the album. I think it sounds very raw, very live. So, would like to know how was the production of the.
Well, as you know, it's Dennis Herring, and Dennis Herring also did Texas Sugar, my first album that kind of splashed onto the world scene, back in '95. And I had been for the last like 15 years, I had been working with Mike Varney, who had Shrapnel Records and Blues Burn International, and we had done the traditional way of recording music. We had, you go in and you're really just going to get the bass and the drums. And if you get some guitar parts, cool, but you're going to come back and do the guitar parts and the vocals later. But I had forgotten that working with Dennis on Texas Sugar, he likes to record us live, and he likes to keep everything. And so when on this new album, I had kind of forgotten that, and I went in with the mindset like I've been doing for the last 10, 15 years. And when the solos came up, I was like, okay, just fill this space up. I'm going to come back and do these later, whatever, loosey goosey. And so we finished that, and he didn't even tell me anything. Like, remember, Chris, we're recording everything, and we're going to use this. He didn't say anything. So I just thought, really, we're going to come back and redo all this stuff. And so then when I did come back to do the vocals, like 2 months later, I come back and I instinctively grab my guitar and I fly out to LA, and we go into this other studio, and I walk in. It's just a small studio with a vocal booth. And I looked at him. I said, "We're going to do guitars, right?" And he goes, "Oh no, guitars are done." I was like, "What?" I had no idea I was just going to do that. So I said, "Let me listen to it." And I was like, yeah, I can live with that stuff. That sounds really cool. So that's what I love about it. And I think that's what's really struck a new chord, that people have responded with this album, that it's got that live, raw sound. And that's what I think a lot of people, it's been my strength in my playing in my career, is when people come out to see my live performances. The albums just remind them of something, but when they see me play, it's like, oh, it's this whole visceral thing, And so that it was just a joy working with them. The equipment we used was like an old A-class Neve board, like from the 70s, that was in the RCA studios in New York. So you can imagine who went through that board. And then they had a bunch of old equipment. So the whole album, I just did it with one guitar, two pedals by pedal diggers out of Japan, boosters, and a Fender, a mid-60s Bandmaster blonde cabinet 212. And that was it. And I did the whole album like that.
Wow, well, they say, well, usually we say musicians that first takes usually are the best ones. So I guess that's
right. Worked out.
And about guitars, you were using Strats or?
Yeah, a Strat configuration. It's the guitars I'm endorsed by right now. They're made by Exotic, XOTIC, and they've been taking care of me for a long time. And a while back, when I was trying to get my 63 cloned, because I was wearing down the neck, because I go through so many gigs and I play so hard that I'd have to have fret jobs done every other every other year. And so I told Fender, I said, can we clone my guitar, because I don't want my hand to get used to another neck. And they were like, oh yeah, no problem. But a year went by and they didn't contact me. So Exotic stepped in. I said, well, if you can copy the neck exactly like it is, I'll start playing your guitars. And so I've been playing those ever since.
Yeah, and they do like great pedals too, right?
Yeah, they do. I've got a lot. We just use like an EP booster with another group that I play in, my girlfriend's band, who actually helped me write a lot of songs on the album.
Nice. You mentioned, I was not going to ask you that but you mentioned Mike Varney, and I've been like doing many interviews with many guitarists that most of them started with Shrapnel Records. And so I would like to ask you something about Mike. I think he's probably one of the most important guys in the guitar world, right?
Oh man, first of all, Mike's a dear friend of mine, but Mike is like a musical encyclopedia. You cannot stump him. he knows all the album covers. You can't stump him on that. He's extremely smart, extremely witty, and he's got a great ear. And I had a lot of fun working with him. But I think what he's done for helping the music industry with all the speed players back in the late 70s and the early 80s. He also had that column in the back of Guitar Player magazine back in the early 80s. I can't remember the name of it, but it was Mike Varney. It was on the last page of Guitar Player magazine about new talent that was coming up that he would find. I remember I read the issue where Tony McAlpine sent in a cassette, and he was like raving about Tony McAlpine, before anybody heard about him. But yeah, Mike Varney, the contributions he's done to the music world has just been immeasurable.
Yeah, that was I think so too. And actually, I read that you won the best new talent on Guitar Player, which I think also that was a magazine that did a lot for guitarists. Did that open doors for you when that happened?
Oh, most definitely. Winning the readers poll was a big surprise to me. I remember the label calling me up and telling me that I had won it, and even though Dave Matthews, I know it's a popularity poll, really, but Dave Matthews came in second, and I think Joe Bonamassa was third in that year. And they told me it wasn't close. I was a clear winner that year. And they sent me like a dozen roses to my hotel room. This is like a month before the magazine was coming out. And after me reading Guitar Player magazine for years before I saw that, and seeing all the people that had won that award, the best new talent, Yngwie Malmsteen, Stevie Ray Vaughan, a lot of big names, Eddie Van Halen. And now my name's like mentioned with those guys, that won that award. So yeah, that was a big thing. And it did open up a lot of doors. I got a lot of gigs, got a good agencies, and it did really help my career.
Nice. I know you are from Texas, and I would like to ask you, like, how important and has been the influence of the Texas blues style and Stevie Ray Vaughan, of course.
Oh yeah, Stevie, when I moved to Austin, I had dropped out of high school, which I don't advise for anybody to do, but I knew I was good. I knew I had something on the guitar, so I dropped out of high school in San Antonio. I moved to Austin on my own at the age of 16, and I wanted to be a musician. And I had just heard Austin was a music town. So when I got in town, I started going out to some of the clubs and seeing some of these players. Derek O'Brien was playing around. Stevie Ray was playing, every Tuesday at Roman, every Thursday at Continental Club. Denny Freeman, David Murray was another one of my good friends that kind of helped me out. And it was what I learned from playing the blues, because San Antonio was like a metal town. I was into Black Sabbath, and I had no idea what the blues were. The blues to me was like Since I've Been Loving You by Led Zeppelin or The Jack by AC/DC. That's what I thought the blues was. I had no idea about, Muddy and Howlin' Wolf and stuff like that. But yeah, learning how these guys worked on their tone and they worked on their rhythm. Rhythm was really important at how you supported somebody in a singer and another guitar player, or how you played rhythm while you were singing. So that's when I got in my first band, a blues band, back when I was 17, Bobby Mack and Night Train. And he sort of taught me how to sort of support him, be a good rhythm player, and how to, get away from I was also wanting to be like a jazz fusion player at the time, because I was way into Dee Meola and Alan Holdsworth and stuff like that, because I was a young guy. Well, but, it's telling me how to breathe and, play. I didn't have to fill every space up, but and learning tone too. Tone's the most important thing about the Texas players, I think.
Yeah, and you are also a good singer, and I always think that the guitarists that sing has more pacing in their solos. They breathe more. No, do you think that's important?
I think it's very important, because it teaches you how to carry the rhythm while you're singing and add little things in between it and try to be tasteful with it. And then I think it helps you with your melodic phrasing when you're doing solos and stuff, instead of just attacking, the pentatonic scale and going crazy. I'm trying to think a lot differently. I have different influences. Coltrane's like my number one guy, and I love Beethoven and stuff. But then, Hubert Sumlin was living around Austin for a while, and I got to play with him several times. He'd get up and we'd play Howlin' Wolf songs with him. And it was just incredible, hanging out with all these cats, in Austin and learning and sort of being with these guys. But I think it is right. The guys that sing, because they have to take on more responsibilities.
Oh, it's cool. You mentioned Coltrane and Beethoven, like very different influences. And I was wondering which are your most important influences as a guitarist, and also which are the most important influences for you as a singer.
A singer, God, I mean, if I can croon like Johnny Hartman, or sing even Chet Baker. I love the way Chet Baker sounds. I'd love to be a crooner, but I'm not. But I've developed, I mean, when I first started singing, I was so terrible, my intonation, I had to play the melody at the same time on the guitar so my notes wouldn't be off. And then as I got better and I got more confident, I started to find my own voice instead of trying to be like somebody else. But there's some, I mean, Stevie, of course, was a big influence, listening to the way he sang. Some other cats around Austin. Luann Barton was a great singer. She's still a great singer. She's still playing around Austin. She was also a great one, to sort of aspire towards. And for guitar players, I mean, John McLaughlin's like my number one guy that I love, so much. Just the way he tears up a pentatonic, just switches it out and stuff. But I mean, I'm also a Jeff Beck guy, Jimi Hendrix guy, Michael Landau. I love him. Mike Stern. I love Mike Stern. Robin Ford, when he first came out in the first Yellow Jackets album, blew my mind. I mean, that's 82. I was like, who is this guy? And then, of course, Stevie, Albert King, all the Kings, when they have that phrasing, it's just, especially BB. He can just play a couple notes and it's just like so perfect. Like, how does he do that?
Yeah, they are all the greats. I mean, we all love them. And for the new ones, is there any new artists or guitarists that?
I mean, there was Mateau from Indigenous. He's been a longtime friend of mine, and I like Mateau. Kenny Wayne, Kenny, when Kenny came out, I can tell, he was just being, filling the void that Stevie left with all of us, when he left and Kenny kind of stepped in. His career started right about that time. But, I like Kenny a lot. But, I mean, for somebody that's really, I think, pushing the music forward is what I'm trying to do. Push the boundaries, add different sort of electronic things or different influences. I know there's some cats out there that I really like a lot, but I just can't think of them right now. But I mean, I loved Mateau when he came out. He had a really good sense of melody and tone. And let's see, who else? Well, I mean, I was always depending on the older guys, Beck and all those cats, But yeah, I mean, there's not a whole lot of cats, I think. I mean, there's good players out there, but somebody that I would sort of grab onto and say, yeah, this is the future. I'm not sure if I see that right now. And I'm not trying to be judgmental or anything. It's just I don't see anybody that's really pushing it forward yet, but there's good players out there, no doubt.
Yeah, there's a lot of players. For me, the one that also blew my mind as a singer was Johnny Lang. That was like,
oh yeah, I mean, I did a gig with Johnny when he opened up for me. Actually, I played a festival, and he was like 14 years old, and we were all amazed at how he sang. And sure enough, like 6 months later, his album came out. I was opening for him. He was starting to really go, and his song hit on the radio, Lie to Me and stuff. So yeah, Johnny's always been great. I've known Johnny, like since he was 14.
You played with a lot of great musicians. Is there anyone special that you say, wow, that playing with him was like the fucking coolest thing ever?
Oh, well, of course, Buddy Guy. I did a lot of shows with Buddy Guy because we were on the same agency. We were on the same label. So we did a lot of shows together. And Buddy is really, I mean, sometimes he can be comical at gigs, but when he really puts his mind to it, I mean, he is stunning, just stunning. And I got to see him before I got to play with him. I got to see him at Antone's like back in the mid 80s when he was doing the big Jerry Cole thing and he was playing a big red 335 and he was just ripping it. And I just couldn't believe it. Yeah, he was one that was really cool. Let's see, who else was really cool? Almost got to play with John McLaughlin, but it was just cool hanging out with John McLaughlin. It was at a Hendrix Fest in Seattle. Let's see, who else? I've played with Joe Bonamassa. We've shared stage. Joe's cool. I like Joe. Yeah, I mean, God, I mean, it's been such a long, so many years. I'd really have to. I wish my mind was that, sharp. uh, yeah, I mean, I've been very lucky that I've been able to share the stage with a lot of my idols, and I never with. I mean, Ted Nugent. I've done a lot of gigs with Ted Nugent, and he's a lot of fun. He'd always ask me, "What song you want to play?" And I'd say, "Ted, I want to play Stranglehold. What do you think?" Of course.
Yeah, Ted Nugent is funny. I remember in an interview, he once said, "Life goes from A to B, so from A to B, kick maximum ass."
That's right. That's what he does, man. That's why I mean, I saw him on his Ted Nugent tour when I was a kid in San Antonio. In no way did I ever think he would be a friend of mine, down years later, and we do a lot of gigs together. Yeah, he was a lot of fun. Ted's great.
Do you think that now that Bonamassa and John Mayer, all these players became so famous, this has helped the blues scene, and like there's more gigs playing blues? Or
Yeah, I think it has. It's I think it has opened up a lot of doors. I wouldn't consider. I mean, even though Joe's done some albums like that Wolf tribute album that he did, and he did that show at Red Rocks playing a lot of Wolf songs. I think Joe's really good player. I like Joe a lot. John Mayer, yeah, I think a lot of people really don't. I know guitar players know he's great because he's got a great touch. But he does some of those girly songs that attract the females. I think people think of him like that, and they don't realize he's a really accomplished guitar player. But I think it has helped a lot of us cats out, younger guys, or the older guys like me too, that's kept my career going. Yeah, I think they have opened up the access and stuff in the music industry.
oh, that's cool. And I was thinking right now we are in like the do-it-yourself era, that right now musicians have to be composers, arrangers, producers, like bookers, managers. I would like
Yeah,
to know
man.
how you manage your career right now and your gigs and everything.
Well, I've been fortunate. I've just gotten used to sucking on the teat of a record label. I've been with record labels ever since, started with a Silvertone, my first couple records. Then I went to Rounder for a couple records. Then I went with Mike Varney for like 8 or 9 records. And now I'm with Mascot or Pro Vogue. And Mascot and Pro Vogue are like a real record label. They've got promotion behind you. They're putting money into it. They're hiring teams, promotional teams, and they're not giving me tour support, but I don't need the tour support. The merchandise does that. But yeah, I mean, a lot of the clubs out there expect the artists to do all their promotion for them. And, they'll start ragging on them when they don't think they're posting enough on Facebook. And I've just never been this Facebook guy. In fact, I'm hardly on. In fact, I'll tell it right now. I get on Facebook maybe once, twice a year. And I don't do anything on Facebook. It's just, it's just not my thing. I'm just a different generation. I just haven't, I just haven't embraced it, because I remember with some cats in Atlanta, and it just seemed like all they were doing was gossiping on the Facebook page, and then people were trashing each other. It just like turned me off. But I do like Instagram. I do like getting out and doing some videos and hearing stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, I've got to practice. I've got to get out and play to the best of my ability. My creed is always play better than you did the night before. Go out and just apply yourself every night. And that's the way I'm going to learn.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think the less social networks, the more happy you will be. So you're okay with
Right, exactly. Yeah, I just want to play guitar and get out there and play in front of people. That's all I want to do. That's what I think my job is.
And you think now it's more easy to live from the gigs than from the CDs, right? I mean, there's not much money going on the music industry in CDs and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I have to get out and tour. That's where I make most of my money and my merchandise. That's how I live. And plus, now that I'm single, I've wrecked 3 marriages and I'm single now, and I could live just cheap as can be. So I just need a few $1,000s to get me through, 4 or 5 months, and I'll be fine. And plus, I do gigs around Austin that pays a little here and there, so it doesn't bother me. I haven't had a day gig in 30 something years. This is all I do is play music. That's all I do. And I love it. I love being my own boss. And I've really done my dreams. I mean, do I wish I had a fatter bank account? Sure. Who doesn't? maybe a bigger house, cool. But I still get up. I get up when I want. I go to my gigs. I choose. I love my life, and it's really great.
And I was wondering, when you are on the road, I guess you're playing all day, but when you finish the tours, what things do you like to do?
I mean, I do like baseball. I like watching baseball. I mean, I still like practicing, working on stuff, trying to, it's like, okay, what's that Coltrane solo? Let me work on that Coltrane solo. I got a bunch of sheet music and stuff. I'll work on that. I like watching movies, sometimes old movies. They got that, Turner Classic Movies channel. I like watching that, reading about how they the production of the movie and stuff. That's just little stuff. I like hanging with my daughter, and she's got 2 kids. So I got, I'm a grandfather. So, I like doing that stuff. I'm extremely quiet when I'm at home. I'm not out. I'm not a cat that's in the bars. I don't drink. So it doesn't, it's just going down the bars. I'll go see friends play, but hanging out at bars or doing that, it's just not my thing. I'd much rather just be quiet sitting around home.
And when you compose your music, do you used to rehearse with the band and put things together, or you're more like yourself composing home, and when you have the songs, go and
Yeah, it will start with me just alone, and then I'll start working it, and then I'll start sort of bringing it out to gigs and just seeing how the organic thing will happen. Fortunately, I play with really good musicians back at home. Tom Breckline is one drummer that I get to play with a lot. He played with everybody: Robin Ford, Wayne Shorter, just Al Di Meola, Chick Corea. So he's just like a fantastic guy to bounce ideas with, and yeah, I love working with some of those people, and yeah, and then eventually the song will evolve, over the months and stuff. And that's how I like to pretty much do stuff.
oh, nice. And you have your own home studio to record, or just
Nope, don't have it. I wish I had. I wish I had jumped in on the ground floor when Apple was starting, because I mean, Dennis Herring actually had like the first version of what Apple Music or whatever, Pro Tools on Texas Sugar. I mean, it was only you can only do 1 track at a time, and we had it in the studio. And I mean, even though we were still on tape, he was sort of seeing how he could edit songs with that thing. But I mean, I wish I had learned it. But now, I mean, I'm just too old to learn that stuff now. So I just depend on somebody that's a good engineer at it that can work it through and do it. But no, I don't have anything. I just have my iPhone. I'll just plug it on and play ideas. That's all it is.
And apart from your CDs and your trio stuff, do you record for other people, like do some like session stuff, or?
Sure. I mean, if the requests come through, I've done a little. I haven't done a lot. I wish I had done more because I like doing that stuff. I like getting in the studio. But I mean, I play in several other groups around town in Austin. I play in my girlfriend's group, which is a lot of, when I first started, it was like country and some Americana and a little bit of blues. And so I got to learn her material, and she had a lot of original stuff. I really liked her stuff. And the country was different for me to learn because, all us guitar players that don't play country play about 3 licks of country music. And I would always play 2 of them in the first song. It's like, okay, what am I going to do now? But learning her gig, it took me probably a solid year to be comfortable in her gig. Because I mean, I just don't want to go to a gig and just hack away at it. I want to be good at it. So I have to really work at it. But yeah, I mean, I would. Somebody wants me to record them, I'm there. I love doing it. But yeah, I mean, I do like working in other groups. It keeps my mind fresh, and it keeps my horizons expanded.
Nice. And do you do any teaching, any guitar teaching?
I'm just not a good teacher. I expect every student to be as quick as me. And it's like, what are you not getting about this? It's right here. It's this, I just don't have the patience for it. So, I mean, I have taught lessons here and there, but very, very few. I'm just not a good teacher. There are some guys that are really good at that stuff, and I'm not good. So I don't want to waste somebody's time.
Well, but apart from not being a teacher, I would like you one quick lesson, which would be, you have a hell of a great tone with guitar. And I would like to ask you, what would you recommend for someone who start playing? what's for you the basics to get a good tone apart from playing? Yeah.
If you want like that Texas tone, the thing you want to do is you want to boost the highs and boost the bass. The mid, you want to cut the mids a little so you get that thing. And that's with like single coil pickups. That'll give you kind of like that fat response. I mean, right now I'm playing a Fender Vibra King. That's what I'm using right now. And sure enough, I got the fat switch on. I got the highs boosted, the bass boosted, mids cut to down like around 4. And that's usually how I'll go to approach an amp, any kind of Fender amp. I mean, the Marshalls, I love my Marshalls. I have one old 73 JMP that I just love, 50 watt. I love that thing. I've got a couple other Marshalls. I love Marshalls. But those things are just, they just turn the air electric, but I don't get a chance to play them a lot because a lot of clubs can't take that type of power. But I would think, yeah, if you want that Texas tone, boost the highs, boost the lows, and cut the mids down a little, and you'll start getting that kind of response and stuff. And then mainly the tone is in your hands. It's got to be in the hands. I mean, it's how you hit the notes, how you approach the notes. And unfortunately, that's the thing that's really hard to teach some people.
Yeah, that's for sure. I mean, the player is. They always say it's not the arrows; it's the one who shoots them.
Right.
But
Definitely.
But do you use mainly overdrives or fast pedals? What's more?
I think I use probably overdrives and some boosters. I mean, I've got that. I can work with any pedal. Just give it to me. I'll learn it and I'll make it work. But the pedals I'm using right now are by Pedal Diggers out of Kobe, Japan. They gave me these pedals called 819, and they gave me the 3 pedals. They're one's big, one's middle size, one's real small. And the big one's like a little bit of a boost with all this vintage equipment components in it. The middle one's more of a sort of more fuzz and more overdrive. Then the little one's like crazy overdrive. And they were completely surprised I used all 3 on my gig. They thought I'd only use one. But no, I got all 3 of them in our lineup. And I just step on each one in graduation, going up, getting crazier. But yeah, I'm probably pretty much an overdrive guy because I learned on a DS1, Boss DS1, the orange pedal, classic, and I loved it. I could still get on that thing and work it just fine.
And I saw in videos of you, and I think you play tuning B flat, right?
No, I'm actually down a whole step. I'm down to D now.
Okay. Wow. Why you do that? Because you think you get a great.
No, it was funny. I did a session with this group in Colorado, and all their songs were down to D, and I was in E flat. And I said, "Oh man, I'd always prided myself on how I can transpose. It's like I ain't afraid of playing an F. I can play an F." And I started playing. I was like, "No, I think I should probably tune down to some of these songs. I'd get a little bit better." And suddenly the guitar felt great. It's like, God, this guitar feels so good. So I just left it there. It wasn't because my voice was getting out of whack or whatever. It just made the guitar feel so good. And so that's why I've left it there. And now I've been playing in D for like probably close to almost 12 years, 10 or 12 years now.
And I was thinking about, do you have any new projects in mind? And in case you do, any of the projects you have something different, like using a keyboard player in your band or something different?
I would love to have a keyboard player. I mean, I do play with sometimes, I still like the harmonic freedom that a trio allows me to be in and the interplay between each musician, the conversations, musical conversations you can have. But yeah, I would love to play with a sax player or else a keyboard player or even another guitar player. I mean, when I'm with my girlfriend's band, I mean, she plays the guitar and she plays really, really good rhythm, Beth Lee. And, I mean, I like doing that. But right now, no, I mean, I'm just trying to just keep the CDG going, and maybe down the line something will come up. I don't know. I never know what life's going to throw at me sometimes.
And I would like to know if you are going to come on tour to Spain and to Europe, which it would be great.
I hope so. I mean, Spain has been on my bucket list for a long time. Yes, I hope so. Mascot, since they have a huge footprint in Europe, usually if it starts to grow legs in the States, they'll put you on a tour in Europe the next year. So that's where I'm hoping next year I'll get over to Europe and play some of the festivals. And I really pray that I will get into Spain because I will be so happy to get into Spain.
We would be very happy. I would be glad to meet you if you come to Spain.
I would too. I would too.
Okay.
And everybody would say my name correctly, Duarte, you know.
Yeah. I think you have been touring a lot in Japan too, right?
Yeah, I played there. I mean, I actually married a girl from Japan, and then she knew some musicians, so we started a collaboration over there. And yeah, this band had a group, and their singer left, and they said, well, the girl said, hey, my boyfriend's CHRIS Duarte. He can probably sing this, you know, the stuff for your group, and then you can do his music. Because I mean, Texas Sugar did fairly well in Japan because I toured Japan, you know, when Texas Sugar came out. So yeah, I started going over there to Japan like every year for like 7 or 8 years. And now I can't, I could probably go over there maybe next year. You know, if the album does good, I can probably get on over there. And I've gotten to see a lot of Japan that a lot of American musicians don't see because I know I have Japanese friends over there in the industry and they'll set me up. You know, I'm playing, you know, like Toyama and little towns, you know, towns that are only like 50 and 100,000. Those are little towns to Japanese, you know, in the middle of the island, you know, that a lot of American musicians don't see, you know, they just see Osaka, Sendai, probably Yokohama, some of these other, but Tokyo, of course, but they don't see all these others. They don't get to the west side of the west side of the yeah, like Kanazawa, because I play Kanazawa a bunch over there. And then I love the food over there. I'm just crazy about the food. And plus, I can speak it a little, I can read a little, so I'm fine. I don't need a translator when I go over there.
Well, I don't know if you have been to Spain, but here the food is great too.
Oh, I've heard. Yes, believe me, I will definitely try it out.
Well, then, I mean, it's been a real pleasure talking to you, and I hope you can make it to come to play here and see you here.
Well, I hope I get to meet you too, Jordy. Thank you so much for having me here. And you know, what should I say? I can't remember. My Spanish is so bad. I should have better Spanish, man. But thank you so much, Jordy.
Don't
Thank
worry,
you so much.
as you know, you just say here gracias, and you know that's
Gracias. Comprende. Con mucho gusto. That's what I'm
mucho
going to say.
gusto.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
and
it.
congratulations for the album. I really like it, man. I like your tone, the raw sounding. I think it's great, man.
Thank you so much, man. Okay, man. We'll see you
Okay, thanks
later,
for your
man. Thank
time.
you, Jordy.
Take
Later,
care.
dude.
Bye.
Bye.